Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. I don't know if I'm going to upload this video or another video. I don't think I need any more light in this video. I think this will be fine. But what I'll do while I'm talking, I will add the light real quick. So let's do that a while. I just wanted to do a video to kind of, fill everybody in here. I haven't did a video for a while, but I want to talk about a couple things here, so bear with me. But while I'm doing this, I'll talk about what I want to talk about here. So I am 37 years old. I'm about to be 38 years old in a little while. And the more that I go on in this life and the more that I research into things, the more that I look into things, the more videos I watch on stuff, the more I research, and the more knowledge I get in this life, there's a very, very strange phenomenon going on here. There's something very, very, very strange with me as an individual. I don't know how many other people think like this, but I'm going to do my best to describe to you what I mean. So first off, it's kind of hard to get into these topics, but first off, I do not call myself an atheist, and I don't proclaim to be a believer. I still stay in the agnostic bracket, but the more that I think about this, the more that I look into things, and the more that I research and study, and I see how everything does what it does, and it sure as hell seems like design, doesn't it? I mean, can we all just agree on this? I know a lot of you don't agree with this. I know that you have an explanation for why it isn't a design. But if you would take elements, there is some metaphor that some person talked about where they were talking about a clock just forming over time, thousands or millions or billions of years. What are the odds of a wristwatch coming together, all the intricate parts, the leather strap, the back piece to it, the clockwork in there, the numbers written on it? What are the odds of a clock being made if there is no designer to make it? Now, I know a lot of people, I don't think we're giving the human anatomy enough credit here. Have you ever really truly took a look at the human body alone? Just alone. The human body alone, have you took a look at? That's all you have to do, is take a deep look at the human body, and you will see that there's way more to this than I think what we think, or our limitations of thinking. Now, I don't know if it is from this drug that I take personally, that I personally take for myself, because there's reasons that I take it. There's reasons that I have to take it because I made a personal choice to take it. And it makes me think. It makes me get into these. But I'm not saying that that's the cause for why I think like this. Even when I was sober, I would tell myself, what the hell is going on here? How is this possible? How is it possible that We are in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And we are in this Goldilocks zone. There are animals, creatures, humans that are breathing, that can think, that can talk, that can make a decision to go left or right. I mean, when you think about this, and then there is this sun out there that is 93 million miles away. It is, I believe, a million times. I'm pretty sure it's a million times bigger. 250,000. I don't think it's 250,000. I think it's a million times the size of the Earth. And I just think about all that energy, all that mass, all that force going on, just constantly, just and there's stuff blowing up and whatever. But then when you think about it, see, here's the paradox of this. Here's the paradoxical situation that we're in. When we are talking about sizes, what does it mean for something to be small or big? What does that mean? When you're saying an elephant is big, no, an elephant is not big. An elephant is bigger than most things. An elephant compared to an ant is like Manhattan. The elephant is Manhattan and the ant is a person. Now, in terms of cosmic scales, the sun is so small compared to Betelgeuse and the Milky Way and these black holes. I mean, it's like a speck of dust compared to that. So when we're talking about size, there was this thing that I was thinking about in my head the other day, and it was something that it blew my mind when I was thinking about this. Think if all of the universe was just a tiny speck. Let's just imagine that there's another dimension, another parallel thing outside of this. Say you take the whole universe, I'm pretty sure it's 93 billion miles across, light years, 93 billion light years across. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But if you take the whole universe and bring it down into the size of just a little speck of dust, just a little grain of sand, and say that we are somehow in this cave in another place, we're in some cave, and deep inside that cave, we are inside of a crystal that has never been dug up yet. It's never been bothered. It's never been touched. It's never been tampered with. It's deep in a muddy ravine, stuffed so hard that no human has ever gotten to it. I'm just saying if. I'm just saying this to make you understand how crazy this is, how the scale of this is. It's incomprehensible. You just can't imagine it. But say we're in this diamond. We're in the middle of the diamond and it's never been tampered with at all. And in this place where we're at, there are similar creatures like us, or there are other people that are bigger than us. I mean, so big that you can't even imagine how big it is. Because when you go smaller and smaller and smaller, the things on our skin have things on its skin, and that thing has things on its skin. It just goes smaller and smaller and smaller until you get down to an atom, neutrons, protons. There's other things too, electrons. The smallest thing is something, I don't remember the name of it, but it is something. But anyway, when we're talking about size here, what if the universe is a small thing compared to something bigger than it? and it's like nothing. It's a grain of sand compared to that thing. Like, say there's giants that live on this, something similar to Earth, and they're giant people, and there's these crystals in caves, kind of like here, and they've never discovered this cave yet. They never went in the cave yet. I'm just using this in terms of how big things are and how incomprehensible all this really is. I'm not doing this to prove God to you. I'm not doing this to say that there is or there isn't a God. I'm just getting us to think for ourselves here. Now, let's say that that somehow is a reality, which it's probably not, but I'm just saying, how do we know what is outside of the observable universe? What if we are just static? What if we are just one little tiny speck of static that is somewhere that has not been bothered by anything? It's never been shook. It's never been touched. Because if it does, the whole universe will. And this is me saying if there is something bigger that will shake this whole thing up and we have never been disturbed yet, which I know it sounds crazy. I'm just giving you a comparison of what I mean by size. But the more that I look at all of this and how we have eyes to see, we have noses to smell, we have teeth to chew the food, we have brains that operate our whole body. Our gut is connected to our brain. We have private parts. We have ears to hear. Women have breasts with milk. Men have sperm. Women have the eggs. I mean, it's how? How can this be? See, the thing is, to me, this whole thing is a mystery that I don't think or I don't know if we will ever understand. This is why there is this word eschaton, Eschaton, and then there is eschaton, Eskaton. And eschaton, Eskaton, means the dawn of a new age, the dawn of a new day. And then eschaton, Eschation, means the end of mankind and everything coming into one thing, like a singularity, coming into oneness of itself. And we're either going one of those two places, in my opinion, in my view that I've been looking into, is we are either heading for the eschaton or we are heading to be stardust. Now, the stardust way, it scares the shit out of a lot of people. It even scares me, so I can understand how it scares you. And we don't want to talk about these things because this nihilistic dread that I even have, that I struggle with, I'm terrified of death. I'm terrified of, the unknown. Because if I'm being honest with you, I know that there is suffering in this life. I know that there are bad things that happen here. I know that things are not fair. I know that there is some horrible things here that happen. But if I'm being honest, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I want there to be something else. Now, I might have said in videos before about how a lot of us, we just don't want to accept that this is going to eventually end. Mankind, if there is no creator, if there is no designer or God or singularity or some source behind all of this, then we are heading to that very thing. we're heading to be stardust. And I'm sorry to say, but that is just the truth of the matter. We're not gonna survive forever. And everything we've ever known will be forgotten. Everything we've ever known. And there will be a time where there will be one man or one woman or one creature, one animal, one cockroach will be alive to witness that last time, and poof, it's nothing. And then what I think is, okay, when that happens, if that happens that way, then I say, well, how can another species come about? How could it have been possible for us in the first place to have come to be able to breathe and have lungs and eyes and ears? And I mean, it's just, when you really, really, really think about this, I mean, the way that I'm thinking about this is on a paradigm where most people don't even want to give it the time of day because they're scared. They're horrified to talk about it. And even I'm scared to talk about this shit. This existential dread that I have of knowing that one day Nate will be no more. I will be no more. I'm 37, I'm about to be 38, and I am a blip. I am a blip in time, and I'm gone. It's gonna be like I was never even here. So why do I still worry about things? See, this is what doesn't make sense to me. Why do I still worry? Why do I still think that I need to? Now, I know this is associated with the ego, but why do I think that I still need to be here? Why is there that ever longing feeling in me for some kind of epiphany or oneness, or where we can be in a choir together singing the same song in unison and just be in total bliss, almost like you're crying for joy in that bliss. These are things that I know it sounds like a fantasy. I know it sounds like a delusion. I know it sounds like delusions of grandeur. And more than likely, it is my ego. It is my ego. But see, the thing is, I have looked at my own ego for so long. I do not think that I have an ego anymore. I don't think I have an ego anymore because I know what the ego is so much, and I know why we have egos. Because without our egos, without our delusions, without distractions, without telling ourselves that there's something more or something better, some of us don't know how to live. We don't know how to cope with it. And if I'm being honest with you, see, this is very hard to explain, but I don't want to say there has to be something there, but you have to understand that what you've been conditioned by and what you've been programmed with and what you were raised with and what you grew up with, a lot of you that have never grew up in a Christian family, or you went to Bible school when you were younger and you went to church, and your whole life your parents and your grandparents and your family would associate things to God, and you have that imprinted up here. You can't just wipe that out of your mind. You can't do it. I've tried to do it. And let me tell you, I've tried so hard to figure this thing out and say, what is this? What are we doing here? Where are we going? Why am I doing this video? What am I going to say when I get on here? How is the video going to go? Who's it going to reach? You know, am I going to get some views on this video? I mean, I'm not thinking that now, but in my mind, I'm always thinking of, okay, well, what's going to happen when I do this? When I say these things, who am I going to speak to out there? Who is the individual hearer of my words, if that's a word? You know, who is the brain that is going to listen to what I'm saying? And I know when you say what if, I know that what ifs do not exist. When you say what if, that is after the fact. So if you say, well, what if I would have made a left-hand turn instead of a right-hand turn? Well, I wouldn't have gotten that accident. What if I would have made a left-hand turn and I wouldn't have made that right-hand turn? I would have never gotten that fender bender. See, that is, what ifs don't exist. I'm just saying, when I say what if, I'm just using it in the text to get you to think about what I'm saying and where we are heading and why we do everything we do. You know, what is the eschaton of what we do? I mean, what is behind all of this? How did energy start? How was matter here? When you think of time and you go back so far in time, if there is no time, then that means that eternity it doesn't make sense. There has to be a beginning. There has to be some kind of a beginning. So when you're talking about beginning, you're talking about outside of time. You can't associate time with a beginning of the universe. So either there is something behind all of this that we just do not know, until that thing either here's what I honestly think. Now, these are my subjective thoughts. I think one of a couple things. I think either there is something behind this, and this is all it's like a railroad going very slow on the track. And that railroad is going to one final destination. It's going to the eschaton. It's going to the oneness. It's going to the end of the age. It's going to the end of everything. Yet it's going to be the beginning of what we could never understand, or the buildup of everything. That's one thing. Now, this train is going, just think if a train is going from New York City to Los Angeles, and this train moves about a centimeter every 5 years, every year. Do you know how long it would take for that thing to get there? It would take billions, trillions maybe of years. But what I'm saying is, this whole thing is either going to one thing, a oneness where it's all gonna come together over time. And I mean everything. And in this, I'm not talking about, in a way, I'm talking about if there is something behind all of this. Now, you can call it spirit or soul or whatever, but I'm not incorporating that in with what I'm saying right now. I'm just talking about the universe as a whole. Now, this is a what if thing that I'm saying. I'm not saying I know. I'm just putting out there how I think about this. And another thing is, when we die, and that's it. And over time, all of this is heading towards stardust. The earth is gonna eventually, get swallowed up by the sun, and the sun will explode and it'll turn into a little white dwarf. At least that's what they say. that will happen, and then all the things will do what it does in the universe. Everything is going to keep, moving and shifting and blowing up, and gravity's going to do its thing, and the black holes will eventually take over. Or all of this is for, it's some thing that we just do not have the ability to understand the mystery itself. The word mystery. How do we even know of a word mystery? How do we even know to think of the things that we think of? And yet again, let me get back to the human body alone. Just the human body alone. We have teeth in our mouth here to chew the food. We have tongues to taste the food. We have a nose to smell the food and to smell other things. We have eyes to see with our hands what we are eating and putting in our mouth. We have ears to hear things. We have this brain here. and then we have vocal cords here with a voice box to talk. We have lungs that breathe. I mean, you cannot deny. I don't care if you are an atheist. I don't care if you're a believer. I don't care if you're agnostic. I don't care if you just don't care about anything. You cannot deny that this does not seem like design. You cannot say that this does not seem like it was designed. And you say, how? How can this come together? And see, we can go into, you see, when you talk about subjects like this, when I talk about subjects like this, I know how other thoughts come into the subject. I know how, well, that doesn't explain, why is there evil, and why, why is nature so cruel? Why do children get cancer? Why does anybody get cancer? Because children are people just like you and me. So, why this? Why that? Well, if this is like this, then that is proof that there isn't this thing. But when we're talking about eternity, when we're talking about forever, when we are talking about infinity, when we are talking about there being no end to this, you have to sit here and say our suffering is but a blip. I mean, it is. In our minds, it's long, and it does. It sucks. Suffering sucks. I know. I know how suffering sucks because I have suffered, and I know that it sucks. But when we're thinking in terms of time and how long we've been here and the things that do happen, I know both suffering for myself and other people. I've seen my aunt get cancer in here. I forget what it's called, something in here in her esophagus. Females have something right here in their chest. I forget what it's called. But anyway, I seen how sick she was, and I seen, what she went through, and her death was horrible, and I've seen things, and I've done things myself, and I've had things happen to me. I know what suffering is. That's why I'm a spokesman for these things. That's why I think about this stuff, because I understand suffering. I understand nihilistic things. I understand this dread that comes over me thinking about a lot of this stuff. But then at the same time, there's something else there that I cannot explain. There's something else there going on that is, there's a little thing in your head, a little thing in my head that's saying, this got to be for something. There's got to be something behind this. Even when I don't think there is, even when I feel like I'm leaning more towards atheism or I'm leaning more towards believing that there is something. You know, I don't want to get into talking about Christianity or scripture or anything, but all of these things are just the piece of the puzzle to make us understand something about ourselves. It's metaphors, it's parables, it's words written to each person their own. Everybody's going to interpret things differently. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's going to interpret things differently. And if we don't start having this understanding towards each other, and we cannot speak rationally and logically and leave the what ifs be what ifs. You see what I'm saying? If we just assume things that we don't know, then we turn it into a mockery. We turn it into a lie. We turn it into something that it isn't because we're assuming that we understand something. We're assuming that we know. And this is why I tell everybody, you have to understand your limits and boundaries here. You have to understand when you are speaking about things that you do not have an answer for, but you assume because you want to know. You see, that's how we're programmed and conditioned to think that we are right, and we can't be wrong about anything. If I'm wrong about something, then they're all gonna look at me. I messed up, I failed, I did all this. And here's what I would say to everybody. What I would tell everybody is, instead of changing yourself, decondition yourself. Decondition, like uncondition. Don't put more things in your head. Don't put more baggage in your head. And I'm not talking about the mystery of this all. That is not baggage. That is just simply asking yourself, how the hell did all this come to be? How are we here? How am I breathing and talking right now? How are we in the middle of nowhere in the Goldilocks zone, and there's this sun burning 93 million miles away from us, and this ball, massive energy that is constantly giving off so much mass and energy, it's just incomprehensible. You say to yourself, how did that even come together? How did the first little tadpole even come about? Where did all this water come from on the planet? You know, listen, I am not saying that there is no such thing as evolution, but me personally, I don't know if I can go for this evolution stuff. I really, really don't know if I can, because it just doesn't add up to me through all that I've looked into, and I've studied these things. I've read so many things and looked into so many people talking about these things and reading up on it. And I think that apes will always be apes. I think that humans will always be humans. Horses will always be horses. Goldfish will always be goldfish. I don't think that a horse, when you go back thousands of years, a horse has always been a horse. A horse has never stood up on its hind legs and started going like this, and over time their arms went down and their neck got shorter instead of longer. Their neck got shorter, and then they became this thing that walks like us, like this. Like, I don't go for that. I can't go for that. I don't know why. It's just, my mind just can't, I can't wrap my mind around that we were this little tiny thing. And yet again, if I'm going to I don't want to get deep into this conversation because most people won't even more than likely understand what I mean when I say this. But I always say this to everybody. I don't care if you're a believer. I don't care if you're atheist, agnostic. I don't care what you are. I have this question. Where did the first mother or father come from if there was no womb for a human to be born in? Now, I know to some of y'all this doesn't matter. You don't care because some of you never asked to be here. Some of you don't even want to be here. You don't even care about life. And listen, I understand. I completely understand that kind of thinking when I got into my bad drug addiction and I was in severe depressions and I wanted to end my life a couple times. I didn't want to go on more than a few times. So I completely understand that. But even in that, there's still something in me that says, this is either all for nothing or there's got to be some kind of source, creator, designer, God, singularity behind this whole thing. And I don't want to accept the one, but I don't know. I don't know. See, that's the thing that is discouraging for me, is this mystery. It's discouraging on one part. And then on the other part, it's a mystery that I just can't wrap my mind around. And I say, this is just too much. It's just way too much for the human brain to even comprehend. But like I say with the humans, and I'm not trying to prove anything on here. I'm just telling you what I know for myself. Yet again, I ask this question. A baby has to come from the mother's womb. A child cannot. We're already here. We're not born. We're really not born. There really is no such thing as being born. I know that sounds crazy, but there's no such thing as being born. We're already here. We already come from the elements and materials of our mother and the earth. So Mother Earth. We come from both of those things. So that's where we originate from. We don't even come from there. We're just from there because we're from here. So we're everything. You see what I'm saying? That this is the circle of everything that I talk about. It is the circle of the contradiction going on here. It is either the eschaton or nothing, and that is the contradiction itself. But yet again, I ask you this question. If a child needs a mother's womb to be a child, where did the first child come from? Do you see what I'm saying? Where did the first child come from if there was no womb to be born in and there was no nurturing of the child? A baby cannot be out in the elements with no nurturing. It's impossible. It cannot happen. So therefore, either we were created and there is a source and there is something behind this, a designer or some universal presence, or we did originate from the elements of the earth and somehow those elements turned into life. But the thing is, though, where did the breath of life come from? How did something start to breathe? How did something start to think? Where did the energy come from? How did something start to crawl and walk and know things? Okay, say that we came from the oceans and we were little tadpoles or little things swimming around, and then those things grew fins, and then the fin thing somehow grew legs and came on the shore and all that. It's still, even animals need the mother's nurturing to survive. Even animals can't survive in the elements. Even they can't survive in the elements. If you have a baby bird that is born, and yet again, born, see, do you get what I'm saying? A baby bird does just not turn into a baby bird and make another baby bird. There has to be a baby bird first. There has to be the thing first. So if it's out in the elements, it cannot survive. It will die. Even if it's summer or it's winter, spring, or fall, when the earth was doing what it was doing, there's no way that the things can survive on their own. It needs the mother to bring food. It needs the mother for the milk. It needs the mother to provide and provide the warmth and the shelter for it, to build the nest. So how did this first thing come and build a nest and do all that? And the thing was born. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And nobody can answer this question. It's why we have this evolution thing. It's why man came up with evolution. You know, it's why, it's how this started, because we don't have an answer and we are assuming that that happened. We really don't know that that happened, because there is no fossils that say, oh, look, there's the point where we went from this to this. There's no proof of any of this stuff. And what I'm seeing, I'm sorry to say, but I'm starting to see more proof of things that are saying that somehow this was something did this. Something that we just cannot understand did this. You know, and I don't know. Look, I grew up, reading scripture. I grew up with learning about the gospel and stuff like that. And that's another phenomenon that is very hard for me to explain to you, what it has done in my life and what it has done for me as an individual. But yet I hear a lot of people out there in other channels, they mock Jesus Christ. They scorn, they make fun of, I don't think they really understand what Jesus Christ really represents. I'm not getting into religion here, because I am not religious. I don't call myself religious. Religiousness is another thing, though. Do you understand what I'm saying? Religiousness is another thing. It's not religion, because I don't go by works. I'm not trying to work my way into paradise or epiphany or heaven or some singularity or whatever. I'm not working my way towards this, because what am I? What am I, and what can I do? See, once you understand how powerless you really are here, something happens with you that's kind of hard to explain to other people that have not surrendered to it all and just said, look, this is how this is, yet I don't understand this. This is how this really is, but yet there's something that can't be explained over here. It's always this thing contradicting itself. And that's what we're in right now. We're in these contradicting times. People don't know what to do with themselves. Just look at the madness, the chaos that's going on in the world. I mean, do you even sit and think about these things out there? Do you even think 100 years ago the internet would have never been thought of? technology like this would have never been thought of. They would have never thought of a phone to record on and sitting on a tripod like this and a computer like this and having this musical equipment and things like this. I mean, yeah, they had pianos back in the day, but this technology stuff, do we even realize the times that we are in? Do we even see how unique these times are, how strange they are, how we're heading into this contradicting, chaotic soup that is just mixing together, and people are just agreeing and disagreeing, and oh, I'm right, you're wrong, we're the right ones, you're the wrong ones, no, it's this way, not that way, there is a heaven, no, there isn't a heaven, there's a God, there is no God, and everybody's just so confused, everybody's just all over the place. And like I said, this is either, I truly, truly believe that we are either heading towards the eschaton of everything we know, or somehow, some way, some mystery behind all of this, we are here and we are breathing and we are alive and we are like, what is going on here? Why am I here? How could this happen if you think like me? And it's either that, or when we die, we're dead and somehow this happened, but we're dead and eventually it's all gonna go to dust. And there will be a time where there will be one human left, and I know this is the way that so few people, there's hardly anybody that wants to think this way, because I know how terrifying the thought is. I know more about existential dread probably than most people, because I think about this stuff every day, all the time. It's an addiction for me. I can't get it off my mind. Yet I have days where even when I'm thinking about that, there's something at play besides the existential dread. It's like I have that, but then on the other hand, there's something else going on. There's something that is like, this is just too unbelievable. This is just too good to be true. How does this do this? How in the world did this become this? How the heck does this thing do this thing? How in the world can a baby form in a mother's womb and come out? How can there be private parts and eyeballs and noses and ears and all these things? And they're all for something. They're all for something. What are the odds of so many things? What are the odds of eyeballs, a nose, lips, teeth, tongue, ears, brain, shoulders, elbows, fingers, chest, lungs, heart, intestines, colon, knees, hips, joints, veins, blood? What are the odds of this? And look, I know I seem like I'm being a little sarcastic, but it's almost like I want to say there is something behind this, but then I don't know. So that is the part of me where that's why I have to remain agnostic. I have to remain agnostic. But I know that Scripture has taught me some things in my life. And I know that atheists have taught me some things in my life. I'm not for or against either one of them, because all of them have something to say in this chaotic bowl of soup. This chaotic bowl of soup of black and white, up and down, left and right, hot and cold, sky and ground. See, I don't care about I don't care about what your ethnicity is. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what you believe. None of that stuff matters to me at all. None of that stuff matters to me at all anymore. It's, you start seeing how so many things are completely irrelevant with the time that we have here. And I refuse to believe that this is how life was supposed to be. I refuse to believe that life was supposed to be miserable and we were supposed to hate life and we were supposed to just be down and out all the time and suffer all the time. A little bit? Yes. Yes. A toothache? That's fine because we can go to the dentist now. Now, back in the day, it was a little different. But if you stub your finger, that's fine because you're going to heal. If you fall and scratch your knee, that's fine because it's going to be okay then. And listen, I know we're all getting old. We're all aging. We are all heading towards the same destination here, and not a one of us can do anything about it. I know that this seems like a very scary thought, but I really think that each one of us, we need to start facing the things that we don't want to talk about. And we need to stop looking at death like a bad thing, like a gloomy thing. When I'm in my deathbed, I do not want people around me that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. This is so sad. I just can't believe this. And oh my gosh, I want people around me, if I can have this metaphorical wish granted, I want people around me, if I have people around me, if however this goes, because I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea how from now till whenever is going to happen. I don't even know if I'm going to be here in 10 minutes, let alone another hour, another day, another 2 weeks. Do we think about this? And when I'm on my deathbed, I want people to be there to say, we're here with you. We're here with you. And we're going to celebrate your life and your death. We're going to celebrate you. We're going to be with you. We're with you. And we have our own thing going, because what I see in the future, I see communes of people. I envision homesteads of people planting their own food, having their own nurses and doctors, building their own homes, having botanists and people planting medicinal things, and someone, doing creative things, artistic things. That's what I see the future as. I see the future as plants, the arts, and craftsmanship. And with that, having discipline and responsibility and accountability for our own actions, and bringing that all into the circle of everything, and bringing that into the homestead, into the commune. Now, I sit here and I say to myself, I am not going to force this to happen because it doesn't feel right to me forcing something. Either the universe is going to grant this, either if there is a source, if there is a God, if there is a creator, if there is. If that is somehow the universal willing, if that's what is willing to be, then it will happen. Then if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not going to force. You can't force people here. You can't force people to do or to be or to act or to do anything. So how do you plant a vision for people that might not have a vision while they're here in this world and while they're alive, and they are not liking life, they are hating life, they never wanted to be here, or people that they do like life, they just don't know what to do with their life most of the time. But being able to balance that out, you see what I'm saying? Being able to balance it all. You're going to have days where you're not feeling it. You know what I'm saying? There is no such thing as solving every problem or getting away from every problem. It's just, how do we deal with the problem is the question. See, if we learn to trust each other, to be honest with each other, to be bold with one another, to confront one another, to give each other when it is time to give, to get what needs done, and then in the free time, do the creative things, build, plant food, experiment with stuff, because listen, my whole paradigm has shifted from how I used to think about this world and people and places and things. I do not think the same way that I used to think at all. My whole paradigm has completely went on a totally different thing. And I'm doing my best to describe it to you, but this doesn't even break the ice of what it is that I personally have a vision for myself. And a vision is just knowing and understanding yourself and saying, I know that this will never work, so this is the thing that I'm doing. And you understand that, well, this is something that didn't work for me, and I know now I know my boundaries. You see, this all comes down basically to having the knowledge, the understanding of self, and being able to be honest in everything that you do. Because if you're lying about things, if you're holding back things, if you're insecure about things, if you're not a disciplined person, then none of this can happen. And that's the problem. As bad as I don't want to call myself a chaperone, and I don't see myself as a chaperone, I don't see myself as a teacher. How can I say this? But if people are not hearing, how are they going to know this stuff? I know it doesn't sound like I'm talking about anything sometimes, but actually I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about things that if we keep blocking out, we're not going to know. And once you get to this kind of understanding, the paradigm shifts. Something happens when you understand your ego and you understand that you will die eventually, and you understand the contradictions going on here, and you understand that to be able to discern things, it takes the ability to be honest with yourself. You have to be willing to expose yourself. If you're not willing to expose everything about yourself, you're not going to know yourself, because you're not looking in the mirror back at yourself. So that's why you can't know this. You can't get to the paradigm of saying, holy shit, this is not what I thought. This is why I tell every single one of you, we must decondition our minds. We must have a renewing of our minds. We must have a renewing of our minds, or we're going to continue to keep living the way that we've been living for so long. If you're somebody that is in this rut, or you're paralyzed, or you don't know what to do, you have to face your fears. You got to be honest with yourself. You got to be willing to expose these things every time they come up, because this stuff is always going to be coming at you. It's always going to be coming at me. I understand this now. There is no running away from this. You can't run away from reality. You can't do it. And as long as we're in denial about reality, as long as we're lying to ourselves, as long as we're not looking into everything for ourselves and asking every question we possibly can, see, there comes a point where you should be at the end of questioning. You shouldn't even have any more questions because you've looked into so many things. And there is too many people that assume that they know things that they don't know. They're just going by, oh no, I'm right, because you've been conditioned and programmed to think that you're right. And this is the epitome of ignorance, stupidity, callousness in the area of understanding each other while we're here to make this world a different kind of place, a better place for us. I'm not saying that there is no such thing as saving this world. That is just some phrase that we use. You can't save the world. Not everybody is going to be on board with what one individual is saying. That's impossible. And I know that's impossible. But is it possible to have some kind of oneness yet being different individuals in the oneness, in the circle of everything, in the full circle? Is it possible to have a oneness mentality yet be different people? Like, is it possible to have a group of people yet each person thinks different, yet when things need done, they get it done? You see what I'm saying? They trust each other. You see, when I look this way, I want to trust that the person behind me, that I don't have to be looking over my shoulder. I don't have to worry about those irrelevant, petty things that a lot of the world and people have not still dealt with. And it's still dwelling in them like a cancer that they will not cut out, that they will not expose. That's why it stays with us, because we're not exposing it. We're not talking about it. We're not being honest about it. And that's why it stays with a lot of us. And we wonder why we keep going through this repetitive cycle of, I'm insecure, but you don't know why you're insecure because you're not being honest with why you're insecure. And it all comes from your ego, your conditioning, your upbringing, your programming, things that you've been brainwashed with. You have to break it all down. You have to decondition, deprogram. You have to see it all for what it is. And when you see it for what it is and you break it down, you know not to act out in a certain way anymore. See, there's something that happens. It's the ultimate shift. It's the ultimate shifting of paradigms. It's like the equators of the earth changing and flipping the opposite way. And then the circle of, half white, half black goes from, and then it switches sides. But it's still the same thing. It's still the same understanding. It's just now you're understanding the contradiction. You're understanding the seesaw. You're understanding the paradigm of each side. And you know when one side's heavy and one side's too light. You know when you got too much weight over here than here. You're on the fence looking across, down, and up at everything on all sides. Basically, you're on the fence with everything. And I don't think that there is any other mindset that we can have, and I know I sound like I'm preaching, but this is the only way that I can see things for myself. So that is some of what's on my mind. I just wanted to speak because I have been kind of sitting here talking to myself and looking into things. I have just not, for some reason, I had to take a break from this all and really reflect, to be more honest, to be more vulnerable with myself. Because if I'm not vulnerable with me, then that means I'm not being me. And the opposite of vulnerability is pride. And pride destroys everything. Pride separates, hates, destroys, corrupts. It does all that stuff. And I don't want to do that no more. I don't want to do that. Am I fully righteous? No, I'm not fully righteous, but I would rather be in the camp of righteousness than in the camp of stupidity and evil and ignorance and things like that, because it does nothing for any of us. None of us. It's just showing us what I really, really believe what's going on right now. We are being shown through this thing that's leading to the Eschaton. We're being shown how ignorant we really are, how ignorant we're capable of being, how evil and wicked we really are. Because I'm not going to get into this whole thing, but, right now, I am someone that, another thing that has changed for me is right now I am for animal rights, because I do not believe in killing animals for us to eat them anymore. I don't call myself a vegan or anything, but I'm not eating meat right now, and I'm an advocate to where we need to look for alternatives to this. Instead of shedding all this blood, instead of all this slaughter and torture of animals, and who cares about their suffering? Who's going to speak up for them? We all say we don't want suffering and we hate suffering. Well, how many of us still eat meat and we're not looking for any alternatives? Why can't we make something that tastes like animal meat instead of having to kill animals to get the meat? All you have to do is put yourself in their shoes, and that says everything. Would you want to be an animal that doesn't have a choice whether it lives or dies? Oh no, you're going into the slaughterhouse, buddy. You don't got a choice. And see, the thing is, if you're mad at me, you're only mad at something that you're not looking at for yourself. You're only mad at something that you're ignorant of. That's all. If you're mad at me for saying this, you're mad at yourself. You can't be mad at me calling out suffering and other things that I talk about. And I know that probably 99% of you on here eat animal meat. And don't get me wrong, I love the taste of meat, but I just cannot do it. I cannot bring myself to cause any more suffering. I cannot bring myself to be someone to contribute to that. Just because everybody else does it, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. Just because we've been doing this for thousands of years and tribesmen, killed buffaloes and all of that stuff. Yeah, okay, they would kill one buffalo once in a while so the tribe could eat if they didn't have other food. And it's still bad. It's still killing something. But the way that we do this today, all you got to do is drive up and down the road. There's Burger Kings, Kentucky Fried Chickens, Wendy's, Hardee's, McDonald's, everywhere. Taco Bell, it's everywhere. It's wholesale slaughter here. It is a literal slaughterhouse that we live in. We live in a murder machine. America is a murder machine right now. But how many people care? We say that we care about suffering, right? We don't want things to suffer, right? So why do we keep contributing to it if we care so much? The thing is, we are addicted to a taste. We murder because we are addicted to the taste of something. Murdering for a taste. Now, if that doesn't make you sick, or that doesn't make you say, damn, I never looked at it like that, then you're an ignorant person. There just is no other way around it. And like I said, you can't be mad at me for saying this. this is what we've been conditioned to think, that just because it's been going on for hundreds of years, that we can just keep contributing to it, that we can just keep doing it, and it's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with me eating my Denny Moore sausage in the morning. There's nothing wrong with eating my, bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddle from McDonald's every day. Listen, even when I was eating meat, and I'm going to end it on this note, how many of you go to the store and when you get a TV dinner or you get meat, you don't even see it as a dead animal? Because we're so blinded to the fact that it's an animal that was slaughtered, we don't even look at it as an animal. We just say, oh, give me a chicken sandwich, give me chicken salad. It's everywhere. Oh, I want a taco, and we don't even see it as animals. We just see it as meat, beef, turkey, and it's like, it's just crazy to me. Like, we don't need to do this, y'all. We do not need to eat animal meat. That's a complete myth. You can get protein and everything you need in carbohydrates. We have rice, we have wheat, which I don't prefer because I don't want to eat gluten stuff. Because I think I'm allergic to it. I get rashes, and I just got rid of my rashes again because I quit eating it a while ago, and I quit eating meat a long time ago. So we got rice, we got barley, we got wheat, we got grain, we got all kinds of stuff, oatmeal. There's a ton of other things you can eat. A ton of other things you can eat. Even if you are into that kind of stuff, you can eat eggs. That's not something that says ouch. It's not something that feels yet. So there's nothing wrong with eating an egg because it's not something that is alive, that feels, that suffers. So there are so many alternatives, but see, the thing is, it took me so long to get it through my head. I had to relapse so many times. I had to say, today's my cheat day. I always called it my cheat day. And I said, oh, well, I didn't eat meat for a month and a half. So I'm entitled to have my cheat day. I'm entitled to eat a sub, beef jerky, and popcorn. I'm entitled to do that because I didn't do it for so long. No, that's bullshit on my part, because it's still contributing. It still is adding to the suffering and the problem going on, all in the name of getting protein, all in the name of a taste that we have for it. And most people, they'll just completely forget about it. They'll wake up, they'll go to McDonald's, they'll go to the store, they'll get beef, they'll get cheeseburgers, and they just don't care. They just do not care. And I say to myself, okay, well, how about all of us trade positions with the pigs and the cows and the chickens and everything else? Did you ever watch some of these videos with these animals being killed? It's murder. That's all there is to it. It's murder. And I can't stand for murder. So will you stand with me? And really, if you stand with me, you just stand for yourself. If you're a fan of me, you're a fan of yourself. If you understand me, you understand yourself. That's all. And if you don't, well, you can start to understand yourself. You see, you have to be willing to choose one or the other. You have to be willing to say enough is enough of something. You have to be willing to see the suffering and the things that go on here in order to do the opposite of it. Because see, a lot of people that have not suffered, they do not know suffering. They don't understand suffering. So that's why they keep contributing to it, because they don't understand it. They don't care. They never experienced it. And this is why I think everybody should have to go through some kind of pain and suffering in their life to understand it, so that they don't contribute, or they don't do it, or they don't cause it, or they don't keep doing it. Because that's something that I believe in. I know that we're going to go through some pain. I know that we're going to have problems. And I know that we're going to suffer some. but it doesn't mean that we have to keep causing suffering. It doesn't mean that we have to keep suffering through things. You know, what are the alternatives? That's what I'm going to leave you with. What are the alternatives while we're here on this planet, y'all? What are the alternatives to slaughtering animals and eating the meat which we do not need? It's just bloodlust. It's a taste to something. It's an addiction. It's a bad addiction that causes suffering. What are the alternatives to the bad drugs we have? What are plants that we can study? What is food that we can grow that is healthy, that is good for us? What are the alternatives to this unnecessary violence and stupidity? What are the alternatives to that? You see, what are the alternatives to having to rely on corporations instead of starting our own thing, creating our own homesteads, our own utopias, our own, and I know there's no such thing as full utopia, but creating our own places where we can reside, that can be our refuge, where we can trust people, where we can work together, where we can create together, where we can do what needs done, and then in our spare time have something to do, because really, there is really going to be no other way other than the future to me is the arts, craftsmanship, and plants. That's the future. And getting what needs done, and doing it accordingly, you see? Doing it with accountability and responsibility and discipline. That is all that matters for people like me. So yet again, if you are someone that understands me, you understand yourself. If you're someone that resonates with me, you resonate with yourself. If you're someone that is listening and you know that I'm not bullshitting you, then that means that you're not bullshitting yourself. It's all just a reflection. It all reflects. So anyway, with that, I would appreciate if everybody right now could hit the like button. It helps get my videos out there. I know my channel's not a big channel. I know it might not seem like I'm really saying too much, but believe me, I'm saying a lot. I'm saying everything really that can be known by mankind. It's just, for some reason, we just don't want to face one of the sides. You know, we want to leave one side out and think that the other side is right, you know, because this is how we are. We've been programmed and conditioned, and we're too prideful, we're too egotistical to say otherwise. And if anybody wants to help donate to my platform, I have a link down in my PayPal down below in the blue link. If you want to click that and donate anything helps me when I'm in need. And if I'm being honest, right now I'm kind of in need. So if somebody wants to help, I would appreciate it. And this is my way of giving you something right now. You know, I don't have anything but my word and what I know to be true to give to people. You know, that's what my name means, for heaven's sakes. For heavenly hell's sake is he has given, to give, given unto. So that's what I like doing. I like giving information. I like giving you something honest. I like giving you something real. I like giving you up in your face information, because a lot of other people, they play this game with you. They tell you what they think you want to hear. I don't tell you what I think you want to hear. I tell you what I need to know for myself. That's what I tell you. I tell you things that I'm always sitting here telling myself. I don't sit here and talk about anything that I don't sit here and discuss to myself or talk to myself with. I don't do anything like that. So that's how I know at the end of the day, I don't have anything to feel guilty about. And if you could do the same thing, then you wouldn't have anything to feel guilty about. You know, we wouldn't have these insecurities and these programmed ways of thinking and doing what we do. Don't you understand? It's all coming from that. It comes from that alone. This is the crazy thing. And once you understand that paradigm, for me, it took a lot of time. But there comes a time where it just completely flips. I can't describe it to you. I can't give you an essay on it. It's something that happened over a long period of time for me, but it's something that I believe that not a lot of the world, until they get out of their denial and they stop lying to themselves and we start exposing things and we start getting real, that we're not going to understand. So, is there such a thing as oneness? Is there such a thing as being in unison yet being different people? Are we heading towards the Eschaton, or are we heading towards nothing, and has all of this mystery just somehow came about, which it's just very hard to see it like that. And I'm being as rational as I can be here, but it's very hard to think of it like that. So, I'm left here thinking about it some more. And it doesn't stop with me, y'all. It doesn't stop. It keeps going. It's like the Energizer Bunny. It just keeps going and going and going. And until the battery dies, I guess I won't know. So anyway, thanks for the support. Like I said, y'all, hit the like button. It's not hard. Just press the like button for me. And if you want to go the extra mile and you want to help give back to my platform or help me as a person, any donations are appreciated. Take care of yourselves. Self-reflect. Look at things honestly. Stop lying to yourself. Stop bullcrapping yourself. Don't just do something because everybody else is doing something. Look into it for yourself, because really the self is everything. All in one. The self is everything. You can't go outside of yourself. This is why it's up to each individual to get this for themselves. This is not a group thing. Nobody can get any of this for you. You know, at the end of the day, it's going to be you with you. So the reason why I'm sitting here being silent like this is I wonder how many of us can just sit for a second. How many of us can just sit in silence for a couple seconds? Is that even possible today? So anyway, I'm going to let y'all go. I didn't want to make it this long, but sometimes I feel so connected with this, and then other times I don't feel too connected. But right now I feel connected with it, so I kind of want to stay on and talk, but I'm not going to overdo it. But I don't know. Sometimes I do weird things just to do it, you know. It's like, what does it matter, you know? See, this is the part of breaking the ice, is like, sometimes you got to do things on camera that you don't even want to do just to get used to it. And I still don't feel used to the camera. I still don't feel used to doing videos, if I'm being honest. But some days are better than other days. Some days I'm more comfortable. Some days I'm more nervous. Some days I really don't care. So, but yet I have all of this under control. I know when I'm doing too much. I know when I need to move. I know I've kind of figured out my cycle here. I've kind of figured out how I am as an individual person. And I think that's the most important thing for every single one of us to know, because we can't know anything else. So when we understand that, we understand each other. And then we can go from there. I'm out. Later, y'all. Take care.